This is Laugh or Death, hosted by keynote speaker Paul Osincup.
You may know Jamie Campbell from appearances on NBC's Chicago Fire, Pop TV's Hollywood Darlings, or the Emmy-nominated ABC series Boondoggle. He recently released a new comedy special from Dry Bar Comedy, which is hilarious. If you got to check it out. And he is one of the stars of The Gingerbread Men, a holiday feature film from Clearlight Entertainment, which will be released this Christmas. So, hey, man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chop it up with you, Paul.
Yeah, well, I know that you understand kind of how this whole deal works, that the first question, so that our listeners can get to know you, is we want to know something weird about you, something weird that makes you happy, or something weird, about you that maybe is different from most people.
Sure. Well, let's see here. I had a pony when I was a kid, believe it or not. A lot of kids dream about having a pony.
You were the one kid that got a pony?
I was the one kid. I had a pony. My grandfather had this ranch. And at some point, I don't know, I feel like maybe somebody just threw it in the deal with some other livestock. Because at some point, my sister and I, we go to visit my grandfather, and he goes, "You're not going to believe this. I got a pony." And this pony was so old and just towards the end of its life that, like, it had this look like, "Please don't ride me." But we did. We rode it. And that was actually how I learned about death, because I had a pony also that died.
Oh, man. Oh, no. Well, that's how you got to learn about, like, all right, well, things die.
Yeah.
Did it die, like, right away?
No. We had him for, like, I want to say a couple years maybe. And then one day we go to visit, and we're like, hey, his name was Shorty, which I guess is apt as far as horses go. Ponies are pretty short. We're like, where's Shorty? We can't find him. He's not out in the pasture where he normally is. And my grandfather was like, oh, yeah, he went to visit some friends. And I was like, all right, come on. What pony goes to visit friends? What is that? Come on. I'm not a moron. I might be 6 years old, but I'm not a fool. And so finally he was like, yeah, those friends were in heaven. He's dead. And so that's how I learned the cruel truth of mortality.
Yeah. Well, man, you're giving me vibes from home, because, for one, my grandma's name was Shorty. She was like, I'm 5'4". My grandma was like maybe 5 feet tall, and everyone just called her Grandma Shorty.
She might have been my pony.
Maybe she was reincarnated. Yeah, just get on old glue there, she'll take care of you. But and I had, my family from Iowa, and instead of a pony, I was given from my grandpa a cow. And He was like, well, you just go ahead and pick out whichever one you want there, And I was like, oh, that's great, Grandpa. This one's mine. And what's weird is the next summer he wasn't there.
Oh, wow. Then you look down on your plate.
Exactly. What happened to him? Oh, you're eating him, son. Yeah,
that's right.
Oh, man. Well, good. I'm glad we both got to learn about death early on in life.
Yeah. Maybe that's why we ended up getting into comedy.
That's exactly what I was about to ask you. So when I talk to comics, I always kind of wonder the origin story. Like, when you were a kid, like, if people knew you as a kid, would they look now and go like, oh, of course he's a comedian? Were you a funny kid? How did that journey happen?
Yeah, I use humor a lot of times as a way to get in good with the other kids. My family moved around so much when I was younger. I went to 12 different schools between kindergarten and 12th grade. We were always moving. We were poor. And when you're poor, a lot of times, like, your parents are looking for the next best situation for their family. So it's like, okay, well, this place has a little bit of a nicer place, nicer house, nicer apartment for the same amount of rent. We're going to get out of here. Or this job pays slightly above the minimum wage that I'm currently earning. So we're going to move to this town, and I'm going to work this job. And just kind of trying to keep our heads above water forced us to move around all the time. And I was constantly the new kid. And when you're the new kid, you've got to prove yourself over and over and over again. And one of the quickest things that I learned was that people like you if you make them laugh. And a lot of times, if you can make a bully laugh, then you're going to avoid getting punched by that bully. They end up liking you. It did not always work out that way. I got in more than my share of fights as a little kid. But humor often helped. And it also helps, helped me connect with adults. A lot of times when I was a little kid, because we did move around so much, I didn't have a lot of long-lasting friendships, so I had to learn to connect with my parents. And so then my humor ended up being a little bit more adult. And so grown-ups were always surprised at how this little kid would come up with jokes here and there.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I always say like we grew up poor also, not like living on the streets poor, but like
Right.
I'm sorry we never knew you needed glasses poor. You know, like that kind of stuff where you're just kind of scraping by, but I also feel like that kind of mindset also starts to make you funny too. Like when you don't have everything you need and maybe you're just trying to get by and maybe you're wearing weird clothes and that kind of stuff. So, hey man, if you can make people laugh or even make fun of yourself, then it's like, all right, look, I'm beating you to the punchline about my appearance or whatever. Yeah.
And when you're dealing with difficult times, what happens is a lot of things that other people see as tragic, you start to see as routine or par for the course. So you develop this exterior that allows you to have enough perspective on this thing. First off, to know that it's not so bad that you're not going to survive it. And when you know that you are going to survive something, you can look at it through the lens of humor because it's not necessarily as tragic as it would be to somebody going through it for the first time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it just is like a resilience tool that you get more and more proficient with as you grow up and get older. So then how did you get into comedy? I mean, you kind of used humor as a way to get through life. At what age, like where were you when you were like, I'm going to be a comedian?
Yeah, I have a degree in theater, and that's how I started off performing. I had just finished basic training for the National Guard. I was 19 years old and kind of on my own, and I saw a sign that said, the Oklahoma Army National Guard pays 100% of tuition. I went and I talked to a recruiter, and, he smooth-talked me into joining the military. I'm not a person that was like a gung-ho, excited soldier. I literally saw it as just the only way that I could not end up working in a warehouse for my full career. And so I did that, and I moved to this small town called Tahlequah, Oklahoma, where the Trail of Tears ended. Like all the street signs are in both English and Cherokee. It's got a really rich cultural history, and they do this summer production called the Trail of Tears drama. So I'm a new kid to this college town. I took some drama classes in high school, but I wasn't really somebody pursuing performance. And I just auditioned on a whim, and I had no idea that this was a professional production. I just wanted to meet people and make friends. But I ended up getting cast and working professionally as an actor all summer in this summer stock production. And I fell in love with the idea of performing and the lifestyle of being somebody who is kind of out there in pursuit of art and trying to connect with these audiences. And so I became a theater major, and flash forward to about 6 years later, I'm in grad school at a different school. Suddenly, this passion of mine became miserable. I was not enjoying graduate school. The professors were kind of that mindset of breaking you down and telling you how terrible you are, in the idea that, if you can survive that, then you'll grow into being something better. That doesn't work for me. I've got enough anxiety, and that just kind of made it where I was not looking forward to any of this work that I was doing. And I saw a sign on the bulletin board in the green room for a full-time program at the Second City. Technically, you're a student at Columbia College, but you are in Chicago, and every single one of your classes are in the hallowed halls of this comedy institution where Bill Murray and John Belushi and Stephen Colbert, Steve Carell, all of these great people started in that place. And I wasn't somebody who thought of themselves as a comedian, but I was always somebody who had the ability to make people laugh. And suddenly the gears started turning. And so I applied for this program. The time comes where you're supposed to know whether or not you get into the program or not. And
Right.
it comes and goes, and I hear nothing. And they said, if you don't hear from us, then that means you didn't get in. So I went through all 7 stages of grief. And I was like, I'll show them. Someday I'm going to move to Chicago and shove it in their faces. And I'm on my way to sign the lease for the next year of my apartment, consigning myself to this miserable grad school experience. And I checked the mail on my way there. My acceptance letter is in. They're artists, they're comedians. We're all a little bit late. We're all running behind, and so was my acceptance letter.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's where it all changed.
So just the the old familiar traditional route of enlisting in the armed forces and doing a theater program. That's a story. It's an old story.
Yeah, right. I actually theater got me out of going to Afghanistan. I was on authorized leave to do Texas the Musical when they got all of the orders. My unit got orders to go to Afghanistan overseas, and because I was on authorized leave, when I came back, they were already getting ready to ship out, and it was too late for me to go. So doing a musical got me out of war, which is pretty wild.
You're like, I can't hold a gun with these jazz hands. What do we? Come
right.
on, man.
Yeah. So,
I also love the thought that doing the National Guard, like you were good with that. But what was breaking you down and hazing you was the graduate school theater program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you will be a better actor, maggots.
It's so funny because it's how we see ourselves, right? I didn't see myself as a soldier, and so breaking me down and yelling at me in that vein, I was like, yeah, dude, you're right. I agree with you. That's fine. Keep yelling. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in your corner on this. But then when it's something that I
should be able to do more push-ups.
Yeah, this is highly disappointing.
That's great, man. So when did you like start considering yourself a comedian? Like, was there a moment for you that's like, oh shit, I'm a comic?
Oh yeah, I think. Well, I'm thinking of there was this one specific time, and I don't know that it was necessarily me going, oh, I'm a comedian, but it was a moment where somebody that I looked up to told me that I was funny. When I first started doing stand-up in Chicago, I was going to this Sunday open mic at a place called Shuba's, and it was the hot spot. Every comedian that was worth their salt would show up at Shuba's, and basically any comedians that are booking the local kind of bar shows, they're there, and that's how you get booked, is you kill at Shuba's, then everybody knows you killed at Shuba's because that room watched you. And Hannibal Buress had just started to become bigger. He'd done like a late night with Craig Ferguson at that point, and he'd just gotten hired to write for SNL. And he just kind of came back and visited at some point, and I'd been doing the open mic at Shuba's regularly, and I remember I'd had a couple of nights where I did really well and was starting to feel a little bit good about myself, but I still was a little bit hesitant. And he was in town at an open mic, and I went up to him and I was like, Hannibal, I love your work, and I'm so happy that you're writing for SNL. Congratulations, you deserve it. I know you don't know who I am, but I've been on some mics with you, and I just wanted to say congratulations. And he kind of gave me this puzzled look, like, how do you think that I don't know who you are? He goes, shut up, you're Jamie Campbell, you're hilarious. And I was like, what?
Oh, that's
Hannibal
awesome.
Buress called me hilarious? That was huge for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, that would definitely be like, all right, I've got a badge of honor now. I'm in the club for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, and I know that it's like one of the things that is kind of a point of pride for you is that you really take joy in comedy, and that your goal is to create comedy that makes people feel joyful, that they leave feeling good, that your comedy is for the most part very positive, brings people together. How do you do that? Like what's and why is that so important for you, other than like, hey, I'll make people laugh by any means necessary?
Yeah, I think as somebody who has dealt with a lot of things as far as childhood trauma, and then their own self-doubt. I'm somebody who struggles with bipolar disorder and a lot of things where just one little moment or a memory can send me spiraling. So I spend a lot of time working on my own self-worth. And there was a moment back when I was performing in Chicago, and this is the moment that I discovered that I don't want my comedy to ever hurt anybody. I had this kind of a heckler at an open mic, and it was at this kind of an Irish pub, and it was jam-packed, and there was this girl she just kept just drunkenly shouting things at me during my set, and I turned it all around on her and kind of railed on her, and then she would quiet down for a minute and then start talking again, and I literally, at one point was like, please be quiet. I don't want to have to be mean to you. But then she kept it going. And so then I turned it around, and I was cruel, but I was also very funny in the cruelness. Like, the room was erupting with laughter and cheering me on, and it felt kind of gross, the way that I responded to that. Like, I felt like they were lifting me up on their shoulders to, like, take this heckler down. And then after the show, like, I found out later on that this girl got drunk, but she was an Irish girl in America to spend the summer working here in the U.S., and it was her first night in America, and she got drunk and did what a 20-year-old sometimes does, is make a fool out of themselves. And I made this girl feel so terrible that when I was leaving the venue, she was sitting on the curb just bawling. And I realized the negative power that comedy has to hurt somebody. And she wasn't meaning to ruin my set, and who cares? It's 3 minutes of me telling puns or whatever, you know? And right. I use this talent and this gift that I have to hurt this person. And that was a really sucky feeling, not just for me, obviously for her as well. And I decided in that moment that I never wanted to use my comedy to hurt anybody again. And now that I'm getting a little bit more, I think, wisdom, I'm a little bit more seasoned, I'm realizing the power that comedy has to bring people together. You know, when a room full of people is laughing at something, that's a shared experience, and that's something that they have in common. And this is a time when you look around and our nation is so divided. We're not having conversations with each other anymore. And comedy is such a powerful tool when used for positivity that for me, there's no reason to go in a negative direction, because I have the power to make people feel better about themselves. And that's something that I don't want to waste.
Oh, it's a magical thing. That's a great story, man. And you're exactly right. I mean, there's research from the Greater Good Center at Berkeley where they had people go into a room, strangers, and they weren't allowed to talk to each other. And like one group watched neutral videos, another group watched more like dramatic videos, and another group watched funny videos. And the funny video group, when the people laughed in proximity to each other, they reported far higher levels of liking the other person in the room with them than the other groups, because the oxytocin that we emit when we laugh around each other is responsible for, like, hey, I feel connected with you. I feel empathy with you. So you're exactly right. Like it really, it's not just like a feeling we have that happens. It really does happen. It makes us feel better about being with people, maybe even different than us. I'm curious, like, how do you draw the line then when you're crafting jokes and you're crafting a set? And I'm sure that some of your jokes maybe toe the line of, like, this could be a divisive topic, but I'm still trying to be playful with it. How do you draw the line of, like, I don't want to go there, I don't want to push that button, or this joke I think is okay?
You know, I think you have to ask yourself what your values are sometimes in a moment. I had a show that I did one time. I just want to check. Can you still hear me all right? My AC just kicked on and I can move somewhere else. I don't know if this mic picks that up. Do you hear the AC in the background?
I think I hear you okay. Yeah, I don't notice a huge difference.
This mic's pretty good as far as just picking up me, but I just wanted to make sure because it kicked on and I didn't want to
have any
audio
keep it
issues.
Cool, man. Yeah.
All right. Good. I'm outside, so I feel like I'm really wasting it. So I did this show where I was in Enid, Oklahoma, and you could just kind of tell that this audience didn't like me. And there's a moment where I said, we got to start listening to women. And of all things to say, that was the controversial thing. There were like this is a big audience. There were like 400 people there. And I've never in my life seen this phenomenon happen. Like 400 people collectively cross their arms at the same moment just because I said, we got to start listening to women. And the whole bit I'm leading into is just me. I'm about to go on a 2-minute bit about how women want pockets and they don't have any pockets in their clothes. And like, that's it. That's the whole bit. But it was so controversial for me to say, we got to start listening to women, that the crowd turned against me. And I actually, at the end of the bit, I just stopped and I said, okay, I see you, Enid. If that's how you're going to be, that's all right. And I just did the rest of my show without worrying about getting a laugh. I leaned in and was like, I'm just going to do all of my material. And if you don't like it, I don't care. I'm not going to go out of my way to turn around and say anything cruel because I know my message is positive. And if you're bringing negativity into the space where I'm bringing positivity in, I'm not going to let that stop me and make me go, oh, well, to placate you, can I change my views or change what I have to say? And here's the weirdest thing. This has never happened to me at another show in my life. 3 different women came up to me after the show, very quietly, gave me a $20 bill, each of them. I got $60 in tips from the probably poor, repressed women that were like, don't let my husband know, but here's a little money.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so strange.
And they had to pull those 20s out of their bras because they didn't have any pockets. They were like,
yeah,
you're exactly right, sir. Yeah. Here you go.
It was the oddest experience.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I love that example too because it's like, hey, we got to believe women, and before they can hear why, it's just like, absolutely not. And then completely shut down for any other joke that you have. That's crazy. But you're right. Like if you know, like, hey, my values are, that I'm bringing positivity here. This is a very benign joke. I'm not, trying to be divisive or anything. So if these people want to completely shut off, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, and a lot of times in that room, there are people that are quiet and they're scared to show you that they're enjoying the message, but it is getting to them. And that's what that was all an example of, is the people that did sneak up to me after the show and tell me what they appreciated. Those people might not have laughed audibly, but that's because they didn't feel like they were in a safe place to do that. But the message still got through to the people that needed to hear it. And sometimes the people that are bringing negativity into the space, they may not get the message right then and there, but it may hit them down the line when you don't realize it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I mean, rooms take on a personality of their own sometimes, and sometimes you'll have a crowd that's, for whatever reason, very quiet and polite or quiet and defensive or whatever. But you can kind of see from people's faces, even if they're not making noise, that like, oh, this person's really into it and taking in, whatever's going on. So but it's always better for us if they're actually laughing rather than
the natural human response to joy. But
yeah, exactly.
To each his own, I guess.
Yeah. When people tell you later, you didn't see them laugh at all, and they tell you later, "Hey, I really enjoyed that show," and you're like, "Did you tell your face? Because it did not show me any of that." So
yeah, you sure kept it a secret while I was up there desperately struggling for validation.
Exactly. I was in one show, and luckily for me, this didn't start happening until after my set, and then the headliner came on. There was a row of like 10 women sitting there, and they were like college age women. And at some point, instead of laughing, they switched to just snapping when they liked a joke.
Oh my gosh.
Like it was like a poetry slam or something.
Poetry reading,
and so and the headliner just stopped and was like, "Hey, can I just, what is this? Let's just get back to just laughing." Like, I don't, and I was like, "Oh, thank God she did that," because it was the weirdest thing. But
that would have been miserable to do that the whole time. Could you imagine you're filming a special and suddenly that's the crowd that wants to do that?
Yeah, exactly. I really vibe with that joke.
All this money.
Yeah, exactly. And please, we're doing a special where we just want the entire crowd to snap instead of laugh. Thank you very much. Oh, man. All right, quick pause. I want to mention something I am stoked about. Let's be honest. Most guys aren't going to therapy until things in their relationship are already going not so great. And if you've ever felt like you're doing the best you can in your relationship, but like something is just missing, trust me, you're not alone. And most of us, we don't get taught this stuff. We're just told like, you got to communicate better, but no one ever shows us or tells us exactly how to do that. And that's why I am loving Caveman to Casanova. It's not a bunch of lectures and it's not therapy. It's just simple, practical tools that help you show up as the best version of yourself. So whether it's like you want to learn how to handle conflict a little bit better, or say what you actually mean without somehow making things worse, which we've all been there, it helps you do those things. It just starts with a quick quiz, and then it tailors the program for you based on what you could do a little bit better and what you're already doing really well. So if you want to be more intentional in your relationship without having to make it like a whole thing, then check out Caveman to Casanova. Or if you want to give your man a little nudge, I've put a link in the show notes. Check it out. So we kind of started to touch on, you had some hard times growing up. As an adult, I'm sure life has dealt you some blows. How have you dealt when you've gone through some hard times? How have you leaned on humor to get through some of the tougher things that you've dealt with in your life?
Sure. Well, I mean, I can even talk about what I've been going through this last year. So a year ago, I went through a surgery because I got a cancer diagnosis. April of 2025, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. And I actually, if you watch my Dry Bar special, I have cancer in that recording, and I have no idea. I did not know. I'm talking about having an iron deficiency there. The reason I had the iron deficiency was because I had cancer. I did not know when I filmed it, but it was literally a month and a half after I filmed it that I found out that there was something suspicious going on. We did all the follow-up tests, and they removed my entire large intestine. And that's a terrifying thing to go through. And the moment that you're kind of given that cancer diagnosis, like everything shifts perspective-wise, and you have to decide, am I going to wallow in despair and hopelessness, or am I going to try to find some light in this situation? And the first thing that I tend to lean on when something bad happens to me is, how can I make this funny? The reason being, I know I'm not the only one going through whatever it is I'm going through. And if I can find a way to spark some light in the middle of that darkness, then that other person that's going through that doesn't feel so alone. They feel connected, and they might feel like they can laugh in the middle of whatever it is that they're facing. And to me, I think that it's healing, the energy of that. Because, I mean, even if you look at a great drama movie, there is going to be a time within that drama that we're laughing. Every great drama movie has those moments of humor. And the reason is, it's exhausting, physically, mentally, to go through despair constantly. And I think the big thing that I found that helps me to laugh in the middle of all that is deciding what's in my control and what's not in my control. And the things that are not in my control, I don't give them my energy. I can't, because it doesn't change the outcome. All it does is it takes the joy out of the moments that I do have and the moments that I can control. And I'll make a list. I'll go, what are the things I can control? Okay, well, I did some DNA testing after this surgery. I've discovered that cancer has a higher chance of coming back. Cool. Well, I can change my diet. I can change my exercise patterns. I can do all of these things that make it where cancer has less likely of a chance to come back. I can do regular screenings. I can make sure that I'm not avoiding doctor's visits because of what might happen. Knowledge is power. So I can do all of those things. And once I've done everything that's in my control, then I can laugh at the rest, because that gives me a little bit of power over it, because it's not controlling my psyche, even though it is something that is looming on the horizon.
Oh, beautifully said, man. Yeah. And so where are things at right now? Are you clear?
Okay. So when you have a surgery like that, you kind of follow up with your oncologist every 3 months, and they have my tumor. It's still in a fridge somewhere in California, which is wild to me. I assume it's right next to somebody's lunch. I'm not sure. But there's this lab that holds on to it. And every 3 months, they do some blood work, and they send some of my blood to that lab, and they test it against the DNA in the tumor to see if there's any of that tumor's DNA in my blood. And right now, there's none of it. It is still clear 9 months later. What a gift. Now, I have this thing called Lynch syndrome, which is a terrible name, by the way. I don't like the name.
No
Lynch
kidding.
syndrome.
I didn't even know that.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like an excuse that people made for fighting on the side of the Confederacy during the Civil War. They're like, no, I'm not racist. I just have Lynch syndrome, right?
I just came down with the Lynch syndrome. I'm so sorry about what I done.
Yeah, It's not my fault. Yeah. Well, I do have Lynch syndrome, and what it actually is it's a genetic mutation in your DNA, and it basically makes it where I would have had an 80% chance of the cancer returning to my colon, so that's why we removed the entire large intestine. But it also makes it where I'm very susceptible to other types of cancer, and so we are being pretty aggressive with the different types of scans that we do, because if there is something that shows up, we want to catch it early and get rid of it. So in a recent scan, 6 months ago, we noticed I had a couple of nodules in my thyroid, which is it's this butterfly-shaped gland in your neck, and it regulates your hormones. Now, the nodules, they weren't too concerned 6 months ago. They said, we're just going to see if anything happens to them. 6 months later, the nodules are still there. And just to be safe, they said, you know what we want to do is a biopsy just to test them. Because you've got this history of cancer, so we just want to check. And so we went in. One of the nodules, totally benign, nothing to worry about. The other one was inconclusive. I don't like that word. So it doesn't mean it's cancer, but it doesn't mean it's not cancer. They said it's a 50-50 is the chance. And 50-50 is not great odds. It's not terrible
Well, after
odds.
after you've had your colon removed, it's like, hey, I'm not just going 50-50 now on this stuff.
Exactly. And so, honestly, what we're doing, about 3 weeks from now, we're going to take out half of my thyroid as a preventative measure just in case it's cancer. We don't want to give it a chance to get a footing. And so I'm in that weird stage where I'm like, cancer question mark? I don't know. But we're going to get rid of this just in case it is. And it's literally 1 year to the week, like from my last surgery. My last surgery was May 22nd. My next surgery is going to be May 18th.
Wow. Well, Jamie, man, we'll be
turn into an annual tradition.
Yeah, exactly. Every May. Yeah, hopefully next May you'll be able to book a vacation and not be dealing with that. We'll be thinking about you, man. And for anybody listening to this, I mean, you can't preach loud enough about making sure you're getting your screenings and your tests and all that kind of stuff for these things, because
so
especially
important.
guys, man, we're so bad at that.
Yeah, well, a colonoscopy sounds terrible. If you said, hey, just to be safe, we're going to bring you into the office and we're going to shove a camera right up your rear end, I would say, you know what, I think I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to roll the dice and just hope I don't have anything. But you don't feel the camera going in. We build it up in our mind. The camera is so small, and they put you under, you have anesthesia. You wake up, you have no idea what happened, and then they tell you have cancer. That's how it works. Well, probably they don't tell you, but that's how it worked for me.
Yeah. Well, you inspired me, knowing we had this coming up, and looking over, preparing for this interview, and then I was doing some writing, and so you inspired me. I was trying to write a joke about colon cancer, so I was writing. I went to a screening for colon cancer. Terrible film.
Oh yeah,
and do not recommend. And then I was trying to think of tags of like, but my doctor gave it 2 thumbs up. I went to a screening for colonoscopy. Terrible film. I went straight to streaming. So I don't know. I'm still hashing it out, but there's got to be some stuff ending there. Yeah, exactly. I hated the twist ending. Yeah, exactly. So we're working on that one a little bit, but you inspired me to try to do a little writing about, like, could I come up with anything about getting screened for colon cancer?
Nice.
Man, what an inspiration, though, like to be able to be going through all this, still staying positive, bringing your positive messages to comedy clubs all over the place. Do you have any favorite memories from being on stage? Any, weird things that happened? Some, favorite times?
Sure. Okay, I'm going to share with you one of the weirdest experiences as a performer that I've ever had. And I was planning on doing stand-up this night, but I ended up not doing stand-up. Instead, I ended up in a wrestling ring with a WWE Hall of Famer. One of the weirdest stories that has ever happened to me as a performer. So I got booked to do this very interesting kind of a festival that was happening. It's a one-day festival at the Double Door in Chicago, which is this legendary rock venue. Like the Rolling Stones have played there, the Smashing Pumpkins played there. Jamie Campbell has now played there.
Yeah.
This was not a traditional show in terms of the type of content. The promoter was throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this event. So it was a show that had like 3 different rock bands throughout the night. There were burlesque performances. There were freak show acts. I remember this one guy, he lifted 100 pounds with his nipples. With the rings
one
in
of
his nipples.
those.
It was so
like
weird.
an old-time variety show. Like, hey, come see the nipple man.
Yeah, and I tell you, they did not look like nipples when he was done. They looked like Swedish fish.
The guy had full-on udders.
Right, exactly. And so there was those acts, stand-up comedy. There were 3 comics on the bill. I was one of 3. And then they had some professional wrestling matches. And this whole thing was headlined by a wrestler named Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Beefcake! Yes.
Yeah. He was, anybody that watched wrestling in the mid to late 80s probably knows him as Hulk Hogan's tag team partner. And he was in the very first WrestleMania. This guy was basically Hulk Hogan's best friend for a long time. They kind of came up in the wrestling industry together. And so when I was a little kid, I was a huge Hulkamaniac. This is before we knew anything about all the racist allegations and things like that. I mean, this guy was friends with Mr. T. Who knew? But Brutus Beefcake, I watched him all the time as a kid. So I'm doing this show, and I'm psyched because I'm going to get to be a fly on the wall backstage while they plan how the professional wrestling match is going to go. And I overhear them. They're talking about, how it's going to go. They wanted the local wrestler that was wrestling Brutus to beat him to kind of, I guess, set him up to look like a tougher guy. And Brutus was not about it. He got really upset. He goes, that's not going to work for me, brother. And I was like, wow, he says brother in real life. This is amazing. And so the other guy was like, okay, it's fine. I'll lose. It's no big deal. And I noticed that he's already got a beer in his hand. This is like 5 p.m. And he's not going on till like 11 p.m. And he's got a fresh beer, and he keeps taking a handful of something. I'm assuming it might be pain pills, but I don't know for sure. Legally speaking, it could be jelly beans. But I'll tell you what, if it was jelly beans, he loved them because he was taking handfuls of them all night. And, so he starts to get more and more inebriated. Now, if you know Brutus Beefcake's gimmick is he's called the Barber because he beats you by putting you in a sleeper hold, and then when you're unconscious, he takes out some shears and gives you the worst haircut of your life.
I always thought that was the funniest name and gimmick in wrestling was Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Like, I'm going to put you to sleep, and then we're going to shave your head.
That's right. First, I'm going to kick your ass. Then I'm going to give you a whole new look.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brutus starts getting faded back there. Like, you can tell that, like, he's kind of slurring. He's kind of walking around muttering to himself. And as the night goes on, he seems to be getting more and more loaded. And at some point, I find out that the local wrestler is no longer comfortable getting in the ring with him. And so the promoter comes up to me. He sits down next to me and goes, hey, Jamie, I know you're planning on doing comedy tonight. Now, here's the thing. Brutus Beefcake, we paid him a lot of money to come in and headline this event. And if he doesn't perform, we got to give everybody their money back. So how about instead of doing stand-up comedy, would you be willing to just get on the mic, you talk a little trash to him, and then he waves you over to the ring, puts you in a sleeper hold, gives you a haircut. Now, the smart person in my mind says, this guy's over here just 3 sheets to the wind, and I'm being asked to let him take a sharp object to my head. That sounds like a bad idea. It's like letting Billy Joel be your Uber driver. But the child in me that watched this guy tag team with Hulk Hogan will not let me miss the opportunity. So, of course, I was in. Now, Brutus and I sort of went over what was going to happen. He's just like, all right, yeah, I'll wave you over to the ring. I'll put you in a sleeper hold and cut your hair. Easy peasy. He does not mention that he's going to throw punches. So the time comes, I get on the mic, I interrupt him in the ring, I talk a little trash, and he waves me over. And if I had known this guy was going to throw a punch at my head, I would have made it look terrible. I'm not a trained pro wrestler. I don't know how to fake taking a punch. But I tell you what, if you don't know a punch is coming and a fist the size of a football comes at your face, you naturally react. And so he throws 3 punches, and I've seen the video footage. I nailed it. I look great going back like this every time. And as drunk as Brutus was, never came close to hitting me. Every single time that fist had like just that much of a gap. I could feel the wind of it, but he never touched me. And then he puts me in the sleeper hold, and I know I've got to sell it like I'm flailing around trying to fight it off, but I forgot that I'm supposed to be slowly falling asleep. So I'm just flailing around like crazy. And then Brutus whispers in my ear, he goes, "You got to fall asleep sometime, brother." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And so I slowly move my hands, and then he gently places me on the mat. And you know what? Gives me a very nice little haircut. I didn't even have to go to the barber to get it fixed. So,
oh, man, what a gentleman.
He was actually a total pro, inebriated or not.
That is, man, I'm glad I asked you that question. That is an insane story. Of like, you thought you showed up to do comedy. It turns out you're just getting a nice little do from a drunken superstar wrestler.
That's right. It was the next year that he got into the WWE Hall of Fame, so pretty wild. I think I'm what put him over the edge.
But you know what? That's also a good example of just saying yes to life. Like, you know what I mean? Like the cautionary part of you is like, I don't know, I better not. You know, he's had some drinks or whatever. But it's like, yes, of course I'm gonna let Brutus the Barber Beefcake kick my ass. Like, this is and that you've probably gotten so much mileage out of that story throughout the course of your life.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm planning on it being part of my next special, so I'm excited about that.
Awesome.
Talking about positivity, I'm working on a special that's going to kind of use cancer as a metaphor for the things in our life that we need to cut out and get rid of, the things that are not working, and then talking about how we do deal with things that we fear. It's going to be a very interactive show where I kind of talk with the audience about things that they fear, and I have no idea where it's going to go because a lot of it's going to be dictated by what they want to talk about and what they want to share. But I'm choosing adventure in that show, and I think it goes back to the same thing that I chose that night with Brutus Beefcake. I think anytime I can choose the adventurous choice, I have never regretted making it.
I love that, man. And, you know, I think you've got quite an adventure ahead of you in the next few weeks. And so I appreciate you taking time to, you know, share this with us. And you know, we're all going to be just, you know, sending positive vibes your way, like healing energy. And, you know, I hope that you come out of that just better than ever so we can see your next special and laugh along with you, man. Thank you so much for doing this. And for everybody, is it JamieCampbell.com? JamieCampbellComedy.com. And the reason you JamieCampbellComedy.com.
Because there's a guy on, if you've watched Stranger Things, Jamie Campbell Bower is the guy that plays Vecna and Henry Creel. And that guy's ruined my Google ability. Also, when the Toronto Blue Jays have an announcer, and one of their announcers is named Jamie Campbell. And when they were in the World Series last year, I got a lot of emails from angry fans. And I responded pretty angrily, too. I think he might be losing a job.
I'm glad you cleared up. Like, if people Google you, go, why would I want to see a comedy show by Vecna? You know, this sounds absolutely terrible. So, yeah, JamieCampbellComedy.com. And if you're over at the UCLA Health Place, anything that's labeled Campbell's that's in the fridge, that is his tumor. Yeah. That is not a soup. Cool. Okay.
Don't snack on it.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, and the link will be in the show notes for you to check out his website for tour dates, all his special stuff and everything. Jamie, thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Paul.
You've been listening to Laugh or Death with Paul Osincup. If you're planning a conference or event and want something smart, meaningful, and actually funny, book Paul to speak. To learn more or to get a copy of his book, The Humor Habit, visit laughordeath.com.